I think you can definitely travel, and if it's not travel, learning from people with different cultures like teaches you a lot. I think everyone you meet, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, can really teach you something. And I think always take away something positive, that I can do something better, I can change something. I think the other thing is like, always assume positive intent when you're speaking to someone. I think the piece where I'm saying, if you can put yourself into someone's shoes or see the world through their eyes, I think that solves a lot of problems, right? It de-escalates a lot of things. It really helps you engage with someone a bit better, gets to know them on a deeper level. And I think you can do amazing things when you do that. I think a lot of people now, it's I'm here and I don't want to see your perspective, or I don't want to see where you're coming from. I think if you're always the person that tries to see it from that perspective, even though you might have a totally differing opinion, it's okay. But I think it helps get that conversation started, and it helps just build more community and contact.
Just as you're logging back in, I always it's a little bit of a tangent, but when you say assuming positive intent, I kind of like to give people the example of something in psychology called attribution theory, which is our tendency to put emotions onto people. And the classic example of that is if you're driving on a motorway or a highway and a car like cuts across you, your probably instant reaction is going to be like, you so-and-so, beep, 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 beep. You insert curse word here, you assume,
Yeah.
and you put like these negative traits onto someone, whereas the reality could be so much different. This person could have someone ill in the back or someone who got injured, they're rushing to the hospital, but that's not the first thought that comes to your mind. It tends to be the first one, that someone's kind of caused you an inconvenience, so they must be XYZ. And I think it ties in with assuming positive intent. And from experience, like I've had a lot of conversations. I've had a lot of ones where I didn't, I'll openly admit, but I've had a lot of ones where I've gone in and been open-minded, assumed positive intent, and you often find out like the reason for it mightn't be like what you internally would initially think. And I just think that's such an important skill. It can be harder to execute because it does involve a component of like active listening as well. But I think it is such an important skill as a person, not just the leader. If you can have that, it just, one, eases your own mind, but two, just helps you in so many situations.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example, right? Because it's kind of like, why you're letting someone get into your head and ruin your day, so that 1 millisecond of what they've done, and again, you don't know why they've done it. They could have done it to be stupid, right? They could have an emergency. They might just not have seen you. But that's an interesting one, because I think that really resonates with like the global travel. I mean, road rage exists everywhere I've been, and in most places there's like a stereotype as to who does it, and it's crazy because it just really kind of made me think, like, living in Vegas, driving around here is crazy. Like, I try not to drive at night. Every morning when I wake up and put on the local news, like someone's crashed their car in a spectacular fashion. I'd say people run red lights here quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, fatalities are quite high here. It's quite scary. Going to South Africa, we have these minibus taxis there, and like they run the country. Like, I mean, they will drive on the pavement. They'll do whatever they want. But again, it's just part of the culture there. I mean, it's not great, but again, I'm not going to be able to change it. So it's like, if I see one, I'm like getting out of the way, because I'm like, I don't know what this guy's going to do. Then you go to somewhere like India and you like approach a roundabout and everyone's coming from every direction. Looks like absolute chaos, but it works. And I remember, like, after a few times, I asked someone, because someone said, "Oh, you want to drive my car? We're going to go to this place." And I'm like, no way in hell am I going to drive here. But I'm like, help me understand, how does this work? Because I can't figure out in my mind how you get anywhere. And I know traffic is horrific. It's chaos there. But I'm like, how does this work? Like, every intersection, and literally everyone is coming from every direction. You got pedestrians, you got people on bikes, you have livestock coming through, but it flows. And I'm like, how does this work? And obviously there's the noise, right? Everyone's on their hooter or their horn, as you would call it here. But what someone kind of explained to me, they were like, the reason you use the horn is you're telling someone I'm coming through. So it's like, you're not going to crash into someone. No one's going to crash into you, but you're making that person in front of you aware. And they're like, if you just focus on that, you will be okay. I still refuse to drive because I'm like, no,
I do not blame you.
I'm like, I'd probably damage your lovely new car. And it's like, I don't want to be that person. But it's just like, it just shows you, like, it's like, to your point about getting road rage, it's like, if you're not used to it and you go there, it blows your mind. And you're like, I could get so, I mean, if you apply the rules that I have here, or I had in England, and did it there, I'd be screaming at everyone. And it's like, nothing's going to change. Yeah, unfortunately, we have a lot of drink driving here. I choose not to drive at night. It's like, I'll kind of stay in my area. If I want to go somewhere, I'll catch an Uber or catch a taxi. South Africa with the taxis, it was just like, okay, they were law unto themselves, but that's what they do, right? It's like, they've got a job to do. They want to earn money. They are shipping most of the workers around to places of work. And it's kind of accepted as the culture. Why get frustrated with it? Why let it ruin my day or get into my head? It's like, it is what it is. And what can you do?
Yeah, I like that you took control of your own thoughts. You didn't leave it affect you, because you could just be incredibly frustrated by especially that example. That does sound frustrating.
Yeah, but it's interesting as well, because I mean, it makes for good stories when you tell people.
Definitely.
And again, you're talking about using the human, right? I see someone who gets frustrated here, and I'm driving with them, and it's like, hey, you know what? Thankfully, you've never had the opportunity to be in traffic in India, and then I'll whip out my phone, show them a video, and then they're like, oh my God, that's way worse than just what's happened here. But again, it's just diffused the situation.
Any other key takeaways for our listeners, Adrian?
I would just say, just always be your authentic self, right? Again, we're all different. We've all got strengths. We've all got weaknesses that we can develop. But I would say stay true to yourself. I mean, you have one reputation, and that's yours, right? That travels with you from role to role, from between business and family. Don't change who you are, but always be willing to learn, right? Always be willing to take something positive from any experience you go through, whether it's positive or negative. But if you take that kind of mentality and it's like, how do I, well, number one, don't let it get to you. Number two, how do I utilize this skill, this ability to do something better or improve something that I do? I think that's what I try and do. I think every year I try and do something that kind of terrifies me, just as a way of getting my adrenaline going and things like that. So, I mean, I've done some silly things in the air. Like, I mean, I think last year it was shark cage diving. And I think that was incredibly stupid, because I'm really not a strong swimmer, or probably not a swimmer at all. So for me to get into that thing was a little bit daunting, but an amazingly exhilarating experience. And I would say, looking back at it now, probably the hardest thing I had to do there was trying to put a swimsuit, a wetsuit on a moving boat, rather than trying to get into the cage. But yeah, I mean, I try and do that once a year. It's just like, all right, just terrify yourself, right? Challenge yourself, push some boundaries. I think it makes you worry less about the less important stuff, I think is what that does for me.
Yeah, it's perspective setting, but also I kind of like it. I see it as staying true to who you are, but also showing a growth mindset, like being able to adapt and develop versus like being stuck with who you are currently. You can kind of use the good facets of your character to develop. Also, this was a big moment, because you mentioned kind of staying true to yourself, and you got a clap emoji, and we didn't mention Las Vegas, which is a big positive.